I'm chatting to Holly Fiske from the Australian Energy Foundation, who is working on a project that was funded by Energy Consumers Australia about life support customers at home and how they can be better supported. So, Holly, first of all, thanks for joining us. Why don't you just start with sharing with us, when we're talking about life support customers, what sort of equipment are we talking about that they use at home? Could you just quickly define that for us?
Sure. So the regulations define life support customers as those consumers requiring life support equipment at their premises. So this covers many equipment types, and that could include oxygen concentrators, dialysis machines, respirators, ventilators, any other piece of equipment that medical practitioners can determine that provides critical health support for that person. So because these customers' safety, well-being and comfort relies upon consistent supply of energy for their equipment, and the energy industry has actually recently strengthened regulations to protect these consumers if they're registered as life support customers. Unfortunately, there's fairly limited data available on these customers, and because there is such a diversity of equipment types and their variety of needs, some people require medical equipment 24/7, others require just intermittently or overnight. For instance, it was important to gain a better understanding of the energy needs and the challenges that customers face. So through this research, the Australian Energy Foundation wanted to identify ways that life support customers can be best supported by the energy industry that they rely upon. And this could include identifying any energy regulatory changes that will ensure positive outcomes.
So, Holly, thousands of Australians use this life support equipment at home, and it's obviously the electricity supply at home is absolutely critical. How have these people historically registered their needs with an energy provider? How did that process work up until this point now?
So people can register as a life support customer with their electricity retailer or with their electricity distributor. Most consumers register their details with their retailer. There are benefits associated with registering. So that could be namely receiving notifications about power outages and accessing energy concessions for those that might be eligible. One interesting finding of this research was that a large majority of life support customers believe that they'll get priority restoration of their power after a power outage. And this was the most important benefit highlighted by many customers. But unfortunately, this isn't actually one of the protections under existing regulations. So life support, registering as a life support customer does not guarantee there won't be any outages. Power outages could occur for so many reasons. Some are unplanned and could be caused by severe weather or a car running into a pole, for instance. And others might be planned power outages for when there needs to be maintenance on the poles and wires, for example. So when there is a power outage, whether it's planned or unplanned, electricity distributors will try to get the power back on as quickly as possible. But despite this, because it is a matter of safety, consumers that require life support equipment at their homes are advised to have a plan for their life support needs if an outage occurs. This research identified that only 7% of life support customers actually have access to backup power.
Wow. Okay. So, I mean, that just leads to the really important part of doing a research and survey component to this work. You surveyed roughly 3,600 people who gave you permission to use this data to be able to collect more information. What were the key insights from that research, and what were the really powerful things that you found that could really help support life support customers better?
Yeah, there were so many fascinating insights that came out of the work. So we did find that actually there are a number of people that find out about registering as a life support customer from their GP. There are so many people that don't have a prearranged plan for power outages, so that's about 54%. There is about 68% of life support customers expect their power to be restored within 2 hours. Sometimes that can be possible, other times it simply can't be. There is a correlation between customers who do not have a plan in place and for their expectations for the power to be restored as soon as possible. A lot of customers expect no outages and trust their distributor to provide power 24/7 because they're on this life support customer database. And so it's really important to manage the perceptions and expectations of life support customers ahead of or during an outage to minimise the risk to these consumers that are often very vulnerable because of their dependency on some of these medical equipment. So it's really important to ensure customers understand the importance of having a plan in place in case there is a power outage that will minimise the effect that it has on the customer's ongoing life support needs. As well as that, we were actually discovering that there are no two life support customers are the same. So the survey identified some common and overlapping experiences and expectations, but we also wanted to establish that there are a number of key challenges that are very unique to different customer groups. We wanted to note some of those, and so we created some fictional characters or personas to try and demonstrate this and communicate this important insight into industry stakeholders. So some of those, one of the personas, for instance, was Joe and Ash, who are parents of a young child that relies on multiple pieces of life support equipment at home. So they find unplanned power outages really stressful, and they always try to get in touch with their energy provider for guidance on what to do and how long it may take. The advice tends to be the same: head to the local hospital. However, going through the process of preparing their child for an ambulance ride may be quite traumatic. So because power comes back on quite quickly, often Joe and Ash wish that they could get clearer guidance on estimated restoration times to avoid that kind of unnecessary disruption.
What are the opportunities for improvement in how we deal with life support customers, and what are the kind of key recommendations that you would be advocating for as we go forward?
One of the important ones was redefining the life support customer terminology. So many customers that are registered as life support customers didn't necessarily understand their equipment type was considered a life support equipment type. There are many customers out there that perhaps don't know they might be on these equipment types, and they don't know that they could potentially be given the benefit of being on the registry of life support customers. So it's redefining the term to perhaps allow for greater self-identification for these customers. We're suggesting that the term life support customers is replaced with terminology that focuses more on the needs of the life support customer and the resulting energy needs, not actually the condition. So this is a reframing of terminology that may then allow different tiers of energy needs to be captured. We also definitely recommend that there is educational materials on the importance of having a backup plan for medical providers to advise consumers of what might be available. So medical consumers are really the most trusted stakeholder along the customer journey. These group of people have medical needs, and the information is definitely important to come from the medical association, not necessarily from their retailer or their energy distributor that they may talk to only when they have a bill that comes through or only when there is a power outage. So medical practitioners initiate the journey process for many customers. So it's really important that they have as much information to share with their patients to help ensure positive outcomes for life support customers.
So in terms of the stakeholders that you've been talking to about the outcomes of this work and what you're proposing in terms of improving life support customers and their experience going forward, who are the organisations you've spoken to, and what positive developments have come out of that so far?
This piece of work was really important because it actually gathered perspectives from such a range of the industry members and consumers. It was most important that we were capturing the consumer voice. So the most important stakeholder of all of this was actually the life support customers themselves. And because we were able to capture so many different perspectives, it was really important to feed into the information that was provided through this research. As well as those life support customers, we actually consulted a number of different stakeholders. That included consumer advocacy groups. So consumer advocacy groups would have experience of not just individual customer experiences, but a broad range of issues that some life support customers may be experiencing. We also spoke to a number of different bodies across the energy industry. So the regulators, we also spoke to some retailers, but most importantly, we partnered with 4 distributors that was across the national electricity market, and we were able to access their customers through these distributors. So it was good as well because these distributors that we spoke to were spread across Australia. So we were able to get some issues that were jurisdictional, as well as, and might have been unique just to a particular area or state, as well as being able to access the perspectives that were shared across Australia. So we had these partnering distributors, and we undertook quite a few forums in the space. So we had an industry-led forum to advance some of these recommendations that arose from this research. So we know that since then, since the report has been completed and this research has kind of come to a close, there has actually been some really positive advancements in the life support customer space. We have one distributor in particular that is refreshing their life support customer communications. So this is materials, they're changing the content of letters and tweaking instructions and email templates that go out to the life support customers, reviewing content of the life support information on their website, trying to make that more accessible and more allow for some of the insights that we found through the research. We also know that this distributor will be highlighting the importance of having a life support plan. So recommendations of what life support customers could potentially do in an outage, and potentially sharing some information on backups. So that could be electricity backups such as batteries or other contingencies that can be put into place. We do also know that there is an important progress that's being made with conducting closer engagement with retailers to keep records of life support customers up to date. So making sure that customers who have multiple listings across current and previous retailers is sort of kept and streamlined and cleaned up, making sure that databases are up to date. So that means that distributors avoid wasting resources on duplicate or inactive life support customers. And that means they can better focus on giving the service to the life support customers that are active right now and need the assistance.
So, Holly, this project was supported by Energy Consumers Australia through their grants program. Just tell us about the support and the relationship and the role that played in making this a success.
Yeah, Energy Consumers Australia were extremely supportive of this research. So it was really important because it was very, very customer focused, very important for advancing improvements to the health and safety of customers. So this research actually changed direction a couple of times because as we were identifying some of the needs of customers, we recognized that it was such a big subject, and there were so many different insights to be uncovered. So we actually had to change tact a couple of times. Throughout that whole entire process, Energy Consumers Australia were very, very supportive, very helpful, tried to also assist us with networking to try and make sure we were accessing the right people to speak to, and a good diversity of perspectives were gathered. So yeah, they were really helpful, and really enjoyed working directly with the Energy Consumers Australia grants crew.
Wow, it sounds like incredible progress all up. Maybe just quickly share where can people read more about this project? Where can they, digest the reports, and what are the best online resources to head to get more information?
Yeah, so we have a report that's going to be published on the Australian Energy Foundation website. There's also information that is going to be published on Energy Consumers Australia, the Grants Archive website. The report is quite a long report, but there are shorter executive summaries that can be accessed. It's a very important read. There's also lots of important information that can be accessed from your distributor or from your retailer. So for those consumers that feel that they could use the support, it's really important to go out and see what is out there.
Well, sounds like an amazing project. Holly, thanks so much for joining us, and all the best of where the project heads next, or whoever picks it up and runs with it, and make sure that life support customers get the support they need. So thanks for having a chat to us.
Thanks for having me, Phil.